God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairie.
Welcome to the Watchdog Report. The Watchdog Report is sponsored by the United Taxpayers of Yorktown. And my name is Ed Ciffone. I'm the president of the United Taxpayers of Yorktown, the UTY. And they call me the Yorktown Watchdog. I'm also a veteran. And today's show is going to be on Memorial Day and a little bit about background as a veteran when I was in the service. But first, we have to look at the town of Yorktown and what's happening. First of all, I'm a Republican and Republican district leader for over 20 years. We've always supported Nick Bianco, conservative, for office for the last 16 or 17 years. And this Monday night, he was endorsed by the Democratic Party for supervisor of Yorktown, who will run against Michael Grace, Republican candidate for town supervisor. This is a shocker to everybody. We supported Nick for all these years, and all of a sudden he goes around now and he gets the endorsement of the Democratic Party. So what does that mean to the Republicans? Nick Bianco, his relative, used to be the head of the Conservative Party in Yorktown, which is no longer here in Yorktown. Now it's in Somers. So Nick is like the chairman of the Conservative Committee, Conservative Party. So what is he going to do now? Is he going to take his Conservative Party endorsements and back the Democrats? Or is he going to stay with the Republicans that he did for years, the Conservative Party? So that's going to be the number one thing. And now we have to see what the Republicans' response is to this. And also, at the Democratic meeting, Vishnu Patel and Rich Campanero are running on the Democratic Party for councilman. And this guy, Diana, is running for highway superintendent. So on another show, we'll bring up more about that because I want to really get to Memorial Day. So that's new in Yorktown, plus the school budget vote was done Tuesday, the 21st. It was reported on Channel 12. There was maybe a little over 1,000 people who voted in the school board election in Yorktown. There's always, I think there's like 20,000 registered in the town of Yorktown school district. The vote was like 700 and something to 300 and something no. So it's really, really, really bad. And then he had 3 incumbents to run. And usually I get votes from my UTY members as a write-in candidate. So I'll see how many we get. But folks, they sent out the school district. This is the most I've ever seen. Usually it's 2 pages. 6 pages. 6 pages of information, mainly about the school district and the budget. But folks, it's how you twist and turn and spin the numbers. For instance, it says here, unfunded mandates. 151 of them, about $15 million. What do you think we get? That's from the state, right? Unfunded mandates. We got over $15 million from the state and state aid. So that kind of wipes that out. They keep complaining about unfunded mandates. but that's where they got the money from to pay that. So that's right off the bat right there. That's a good spin there. Then they said that the state aid was $1.3 million lower than in 2008 and 2009. But this year, it was $787,000 more than last year. Makes it over $15 million in state aid. So again, I'm going to write a letter to the editor after the fact because this low turnout and nobody really cares. And folks, let me just tell you what they did. Before the last meeting, before the vote, they had a special meeting on the budget. Instead of being at 7 o'clock, it was at 6 o'clock. I got there at 6:15, and the meeting was over. That was the public hearing on the budget. So, folks, it's a game. You know, they hand out information, they spin it, and now just remember that the superintendent of schools, Ralph Napolitano, is going to now make $264,355 plus benefits is probably over $300,000. And he's taken raises since he's been here. All right, let's go to Memorial Day. Now, when there's a wide-angle shot, you'll see my picture right there when I was in the Army. I'm an Army veteran, 1965 to 1967, during the Vietnam War. And I got drafted June 14, 1965. And they give you a token, the old days, and you go down by train, you go Whitehall Street, and then they sent you to Fort Dix. So we got on a train that was 17 hours long. And we said, what, did they move Fort Dix? So we found out that we were going to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, training center. And that's where I spent 8 weeks. 8 weeks there in basic training. Now, I'm going to go back to this in a few minutes. But as we got off the bus, there was a sergeant out there, and he says, all right, you knuckleheads, get off that bus. And then it started. 8 weeks of hell. They made a soldier out of you, but they tried to kill you first. So the first day, we had to run on this track, and it was in the 90s, and we're sweating, and people are falling down. So I decided to help these guys up because I was in good shape. I thought I was in good shape, 245 pounds. They still drafted me. So when I picked the guy up, they pulled me over to the side. He says, you don't do that. Everybody is on their own. So next thing I know, I'm crawling in the sand, and there's this sergeant with his foot on my back. You're not going to stop ever again for anybody, are you? And we had to go about 60 feet, and he's right. I never stopped again. So now we're in the reason why I bring this up, because Memorial Day, and I'll get into it in a little more, but this show will be on a week after the 27th, which is Memorial Day. Memorial Day is always celebrated on the last Monday of the month in May. Now, in 1868 is when this is instituted. And it was a General John Logan of the Union Army who designated that day to decorate the graves of the fallen soldiers in the Civil War. And it was called Decoration Day. About 20 years later, it became Memorial Day, and now it's a federal holiday. Now, when I was drafted and went down to basic training, there was about 60 young men from New York and New Jersey. We went through that basic training, and we went through all our years of being in the service. And then we got mustered out, and there was only 12 of us left out of the 60. So Memorial Day is to recognize the people who died in our wars. And it hit me the most that I was one of the 12 that made it back in May of 1967. So, you know, we had so many wars, and in Iraq, I think, there was over 3,000 servicemen died. Afghanistan now is about 1,300 so far died, and with all the other injuries. So I'm hoping that Monday that the parade in Yorktown, there will be a lot of people there to give thanks and memory to all those people who died in all those wars. And we just keep continuing. And I think we have the Benghazi situation where four of our members of the military were killed, and the United States government didn't do anything about it when they asked for help, and then they try to cover it up. The government now in Congress are bringing up all these different things, Benghazi, and when the guy that they're interviewing is telling the whole real story, and who lied, and who changed the story, and who covered up the story, and these people died. They've asked for help for months about these terrorist groups, and didn't have enough people on here to protect themselves. That's one, and that's with the Army and the people dying. But we'll get into another show where there's Internal Revenue Service went after the Tea Party people. We'll talk about the emails from Associated Press that the government asked for. They were looking at one guy on Channel Fox News, reporter. They harassed him to death about him reporting stuff. But listen, folks, Memorial Day is really important. Now, as a veteran, and I was drafted. Now we're going to get back into this now. In the 14th of June in 1965. So now you know I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Now what they do there, and it was from 85 to 90 degrees. You were sweating all the time. You were doing all this exercise, and they were training you. And you were even crawling in the sand while they were shooting real bullets and tracers over your head. And there you are, crawling on the ground on the barbed wire. And then they use explosives, blown up, and your body goes up and down like that. And you had to keep going till you passed the area where it wasn't shooting at you anymore. Then you had to bivouac and walk all the way out to the camp. And you had to walk back. And folks, I'm just picturing some of the stuff that happened to me. Tear gas. They give you a gas mask. They show you 5 minutes how to use it. You blow into it, you put it on, and you're safe. So here we go. We were all standing there. It was all of us trainees. And the guy comes with the tear gas. So the first thing I did, and everybody else, we breathed in, and then we blew out. But that wasn't the right thing. The worst thing was, once you breathe it in, you're finished. So who's running all over the place? Who ran into a lake trying to get away from this stuff? And who's unconscious? And that was me. Or if laying there, I get woken up by somebody, say, are you all right? And I didn't even know where I was or what happened. So that was one. Now, you're not supposed to train over 85 degrees, but we're out there in the 90s. And they give you salt tablets in your canteen, and that's supposed to help your body retain water. And then I had heat frustration, almost a heat stroke. Again, I was out. But folks, you got to understand, when I got drafted in the service, I weighed 245 pounds. When I got out of the service, well, I got out of basic training, I was down to 199. Now I figured, how did that work? Okay. So we had a barracks of all the guys, 2 barracks with guys from New York and New Jersey. So for some reason, they thought we were gangsters and everything else, so we had to serve every morning, breakfast, stand behind the people and serve. So one day we said, we ain't going to do this anymore. So this Sergeant Ruggiero, he was the first sergeant. He came, he knocked the door down in the barracks. He turned over everybody's bed, screaming at us. He grabbed us, brought us up to the mess hall. We served in our underwear. You don't want to mess with that guy. So, now, what happened to me, because I weighed so much, is that when I came to the mess hall, they had this special guy from Special Services, Green Beret, on my back. I try to go in to eat. He says, you're not going in there. Give me 50 push-ups. I get up. He says, give me 50 more. I get in there. By the time I get in there, breakfast is over. I don't have lunch. Or breakfast and lunch. Same thing. He comes in, taps me, so you can't have the potatoes. He puts it aside. Now, this guy was on my back for 8 weeks in basic training. Now, I didn't know why he singled me out until after basic training was over. But here's another situation. When you're out there and you have your 8 weeks of basic training and you're out for 2 weeks, you have to qualify with your rifle, your M16. So you don't want to not qualify because you have to do the 2 weeks over already again. So there I am shooting the targets, and who comes up to me? The lieutenant. He taps me on the shoulder. He said, did you have your potatoes for lunch? I see the targets go up and down. I says, listen, get away from me. I don't want to do this again. So he says to me, I asked you a question. So what I did, I had the M16, I turned it right. You got to understand, I didn't want to do 2 more weeks of that training. It was horrible. I don't know how I got through it, but I got through it. So I turned this weapon on. I tell the guy to get away from me. The next thing you know, everybody's jumping on me and everything else. And I told him, I says, I ain't doing the 2 weeks more. I want to make sure that I get my targets. So anyway, the end result was they let me shoot. He got away from me. I became a marksman. I didn't have to do the 2 weeks. So now they tell me, where are you going to go in the service? Where are you going to go in the infantry? I said, the infantry? I took the battery test. I got either the highest mark in being a medic, a cook, and the last one was infantry. So then they looked at it and they said, all right, you're going to be a medic. So where did they send me? Down to Texas, Fort Sam Houston, Texas, to be a medic. So we get down there. In the first class, they show you that there's this snake out there, this coral snake. If it bites you, you're dead in 30 seconds. So that was really good. Then the program started where you're going to learn to be a medic. So they had 2 sections, from A to M and from N to Z. Whoever was in one would be the patient, the other one would be the medic. Okay? It seemed like, since Ciffone is with a C, that they always use me as the patient. So there's a striker frame. They put you in it. You're like a sandwich. They flip you over. An area is injecting me in the butt. Undo it. They come out. Now they're injecting me in the arm. Blood is flowing all over the place. Then they had to draw blood. Now this is the best one. If people are a little squeamish, you put the band on, and then you draw the blood. Then you're supposed to take the band off, so equalize the pressure, then you take out the needle. So what happened was, they took the needle out, took the band off, and the blood was going about 15 feet in the air. And the next thing happened, I see my fellow medics dropping on the floor after seeing the blood. So these are just some of the things that happened to me while I was there in basic training. Now I'm sitting on the lawn, my medical training is done, and you hear them calling off names. Vietnam, Vietnam, Vietnam. They called my name, said Germany. I don't know why they did that, but I went to Germany. Now, before you go to Germany, they're going to give you a shot for pneumonia, a flu shot. What happens to me? I get the flu. So now we go back to Fort Dix. I'm feeling sick as a dog. And we were supposed to take a boat, 14 days, 10 to 14 days, I can't remember, boat. But then they decided to have us fly by airplane. Now, during this time that we were there at Fort Dix, there was a blackout. The whole New York, New Jersey was blacked out. So these are some of the things that are happening. Now I get to Germany. Wife-to-be was there. My mom was there. We said goodbye. We get to Germany. They land, and I'm sick as a dog. They put me in this place to wait for a deuce and a half, a truck, to put us in there and take us to our new post. So I'm laying there, and the snow is coming in. It's freezing. I'm shaking, everything else. We get there, and it was Frankfurt, Germany, and we're outside of Frankfurt, Germany, called Herx, Germany, where I spent 17 months. So, what I'm trying to say, folks, I lived through all this stuff. Now, the next thing was, I come back, and I got married, and I took my wife to Germany. We lived on the economy, and we had our first son there. Edward was born in March 5th, 1967. So I was in a medical outfit, and we used to support the troops in their war games. So my wife was in a place called Zelsheim. And then what the Army did, since everybody was going to Vietnam, they had opened the housing. And my wife and I got into the housing down in Frankfurt, Germany. So, which was good, which was a better place, and it didn't cost me anything, okay? And that's where we had our baby in 97th General Hospital. So, now what happens is there's 160 men in the 547 medical unit, which I was in. They're taking everybody that has a year to go to Vietnam, because you had to have at least 12 months to go to Vietnam. Again, now, all these people are dying in all these wars. I'm number 60. I don't have 12 months to go. So I stay in Germany and fill out my time there with my wife. And we sent her home by boat with my son, and we bought a Volkswagen. So, folks, I'm just trying to lighten up, because Memorial Day is really sad that all these wars, from the Civil War to World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iran, these young people, we used to get drafted. Now these people volunteer. And all I remember is when I come out in 1965, everybody was protesting the war and people dying. And they were right in a way, because the United States had the power to end the war immediately with with all the weaponry that we had and stuff like that. So I remember President Nixon ending a war within 10 days of being President of the United States. I'm sorry what happened to him in the past, but all those thousands and thousands of soldiers that were killed in Vietnam, it was over. We gave the country back. Now, I guess there's no more North Vietnam and South Vietnam. There's one country that's doing okay, I guess. Well, now, all I know is it looks like the government stays at war for a couple of purposes, you know. But mainly it is all about money, the people that sell arms, the economy, everything. So I hope Monday, the 27th of May, that you're out there with me, because I march every year. I was going to wear my uniform today, the top fit, and I didn't know when I put it on that I gained a little weight back again, because usually I walk in my uniform and with the UTY, and we have many veterans that are veterans in our organization. They all had stories. We all came back. It's a little bit on your conscience why some people died and why I came back and others didn't. And I remember riding down on that train with those guys. I remember going through basic training with those guys. And even when we come back from basic training, we went and met in Far Rockaway on the beach before we all went away. And knowing all those guys have passed now. So it's been quite a long time now, since 1967 when I got out. But the guy I miss most is Nick DiTomaso here. Now, he hasn't been feeling too well, and he's a veteran. In his 80s now, he's not feeling well, and I really miss him on side of me here. And he hasn't done his show in a while. I hope he gets better. But all I know, to the town of Yorktown, to that cameraman, that guy Tom, ever since you put your hands on him and shoved him through the chairs, he hasn't been the same since. Now, people don't know about this. It happened in 2010, where the cameraman shoved Nick when he had signs that we wanted public hearings and freedom of speech. So Nick had to sue the town. He had to sue his own taxpayers to get $7,000 from that, the settlement. You know, he didn't want to sue us and him, but how did the guy get away with it? This guy shouldn't be there, and he should have been arrested on the spot. Everybody's seen what he did, and it took 10 months of investigation and found there was no probable cause. Sorry, folks, I just get angry. Nick is a veteran. There's veterans out there treated like garbage. And here, before we end, the veterans out there, Home Depot and Lowe's and other places, if you can get an identification card that has your picture on it, I got mine from Montrose Hospital, you can get a 10% discount on everything you buy. So you got to look at benefits that are for veterans. You know this show is on taxes. You know now we got to pay a higher school tax. I hope you guys grievance your taxes. We had a couple of shows here, grievance your taxes. I hope you guys got STAR program. I hope the veterans have veterans benefits, exemptions, and senior exemptions. So I'd just like to end the show with a salute to all the veterans out there. And please remember all those people who have passed in all those wars. Thank you, and good night.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the